How safe do you feel today? You might want to ponder over this question as we delve into the current state of affairs. In the recent past, we've seen the world come to grips with an unsettling reality. The President of the United States, Joe Biden, issued a warning about a high likelihood of another terrorist attack at the Kabul airport. The clock was ticking, and the window was short, a mere 24 to 36 hours. The president didn't just sound the alarm, he took action. He directed commanders to prioritize force protection and provided them with the necessary resources, authorities, and plans. The Pentagon echoed the president's sentiment, confirming that the threats of ISIS-K attacks were not only real but dynamic. The situation was being monitored in real time, a stark reminder of the ever-changing landscape of global security. But amid the looming threats, the wheels of humanity kept turning. Evacuation efforts were ongoing, with an impressive 117,000 civilians and personnel evacuated so far. These included 5,400 Americans who were safely whisked away from the eye of the storm. The United States also opened its arms to those in need, receiving 30,000 Afghan refugees since August 20th. 8,000 Afghan applicants found temporary shelter at U.S. military bases, where they were being hosted and vetted. In a swift response, a retaliatory drone strike neutralized 2 ISIS-K members and injured another. Their identities and exact involvement in the airport bombings were not disclosed, but there was no doubt that this was a firm step in the fight against terror. As we stand here today, we're reminded that the world we knew is changing. The threats we face are not bound by borders, and the battle against terror is far from over. While the immediate threat may be overseas, the ripple effects can still be felt here at home. As we navigate these uncertain times, one thing remains clear. Our resilience and unity will be our strongest defense. Terrorism isn't just a foreign issue, it can hit closer to home than we'd like. This truth is all too real for Jewish institutions across the United States, who now find themselves on guard following a recent attack on Israel by Hamas militants. The ripple effects of such attacks are far-reaching, and concerns of anti-Semitic attacks in the U.S. have been amplified. This isn't just about fear or speculation. It is a reaction to tangible threats, a response to an unsettling rise in incidents that bear the ugly imprint of hatred and discrimination. Security at Jewish institutions, already heightened due to previous terrorist attacks, had to be ramped up yet again. It's a stark reminder of the persistent shadow of terrorism and how it forces us to adapt and brace ourselves for potential threats, even in places of worship and community. This isn't an isolated effort. The Jewish Federations of North America have been coordinating with law enforcement, recommending increased security protocols. It's a collective endeavor, a united front against the faceless threat of terrorism. Yet it's also a testament to the resilience and solidarity of communities in the face of adversity. And it's not just about physical attacks. The Anti-Defamation League has reported a rise in anti-Semitic incidents during times of conflict between Israel and Hamas. These aren't just numbers or statistics, these are real incidents affecting real people, adding a layer of fear and uncertainty to their everyday lives. These incidents remind us of an uncomfortable truth. The threat of terrorism isn't confined to war zones or distant lands. It's a global issue that affects us all. It seeps into our homes, our communities, and our lives, forcing us to confront the reality of its existence. So what can we take away from this? Perhaps it's the understanding that we need to stay vigilant, to stand together, and to confront this threat head-on. Because as we can see, the threat of terrorism isn't confined to war zones. It's a global issue that affects us all. When we think of terrorism, we often think of organized groups, but the lone wolf threat is just as real. A stark reminder of this fact is the recent machete attack in Times Square. A 19-year-old named Trevor Bickford has been indicted on multiple charges, including terrorism. On New Year's Eve, Bickford attacked NYPD officers with a machete at a Times Square checkpoint. This violent act resulted in injuries to 3 officers before he was shot in the shoulder and apprehended. But what's chilling about this incident is the motive behind it. Bickford had expressed a desire to kill government officials and carry out jihad. He believed that they were not proper Muslims due to the U.S. government's support for Israel. His radical views were already known to the authorities. Bickford had previously been interviewed by the FBI after expressing a desire to travel overseas to help fellow Muslims. His mother and grandmother had reported his intention to join the Taliban to the police out of concern for his well-being. It's important to note that Bickford traveled to New York via Amtrak, which did not trigger any watch list databases. This highlights a significant issue with lone wolf terrorists. They can slip through the cracks. Without any apparent connection to known terrorist organizations, they may not raise the same red flags that a member of an organized group would. This makes lone wolf attacks particularly challenging to predict and prevent, and that's the crux of the lone wolf threat. These individuals, driven by their radical beliefs and often acting independently, are capable of causing significant harm. They can strike anywhere at any time, making them a particularly insidious form of terrorism. Lone wolf attacks can be hard to predict and prevent, making them a particularly insidious form of terrorism. In the face of these threats, how are we responding? This is a question that haunts every citizen, every law enforcement officer, every military person, and every government official. The answer is we are responding with vigilance, preparation, and resilience. Let's take a look at the Jewish institutions across the United States. In light of the recent Hamas attack on Israel, these establishments have become potential targets for hate crimes and acts of terrorism. In response, security at these institutions has been significantly heightened. The Jewish Federations of North America is not taking any chances. They're coordinating efforts with law enforcement agencies and suggesting ramped-up security protocols. But the response doesn't end there. Law enforcement agencies and the military are treating these threats with utmost seriousness. There's an increased focus on real-time threat monitoring, force protection, and ensuring the necessary resources are available to counter these threats. Our military personnel stationed abroad, especially in volatile regions like Kabul, are given top priority. The president himself has directed commanders to prioritize force protection. This means ensuring our soldiers have the necessary authorities, resources, and plans to protect themselves and carry out their missions effectively. In the face of imminent threats, there's a renewed emphasis on intelligence gathering and real-time threat monitoring. The Pentagon confirmed that the threats of ISIS-K attacks are real, dynamic, and being monitored in real time. And let's not forget the measures taken to protect our citizens and personnel abroad. Despite the threats, evacuation efforts in Kabul are ongoing. A significant number of civilians and personnel, including Americans, have been successfully evacuated so far. The response to these threats also includes a strong offensive strategy. Retaliatory drone strikes have been carried out against ISIS-K members responsible for the airport bombings. While we can't completely eliminate the threat of terrorism, we can take steps to mitigate the risks and protect our citizens. It's a constant, ongoing effort, one that requires the combined efforts of our military, law enforcement agencies, and every citizen. We stand united in the face of these threats, resilient and ready to protect our homeland. So what does all of this mean for you? As we navigate these turbulent times, it's crucial to stay informed and maintain a high level of vigilance. The world around us is constantly changing, and the threat of terrorism is a reality we must face together. However, this shouldn't spark fear, but rather foster resolve. Staying informed is the first step. Knowledge is power, and in this case, it can be a lifesaver. It's important to keep abreast of the latest news and developments, not only at the national level, but also in your local community. By being aware of what's happening around you, you can better understand the security context and make informed decisions about your safety. Being vigilant is equally as important. If you see something that doesn't feel right, say something. Your gut instinct can be a powerful tool, and often it's the small, seemingly insignificant observations that can make a huge difference. Remember, reporting suspicious activity is not about spreading fear, but about ensuring the safety of our communities. Personal safety measures should also be part of your daily routine. Simple actions like being aware of your surroundings, avoiding deserted areas at night, and sharing your whereabouts with trusted individuals can go a long way in ensuring your safety. It's about being proactive and taking charge of your own security. But remember, it's not just about you. It's about all of us. We are a community, a nation, and we must face these challenges together. Each one of us has a role to play in ensuring our collective safety. So let's stand together, stay informed, remain vigilant, and take personal safety measures. Remember, safety doesn't just happen. It requires awareness, preparedness, and a collective effort. So how safe do you feel today?